one men. The day when Jews are at one with the only one above. And the key verse for this day, as described in the Yom Kippur service in the Chumash, Ki vayom hazeh yichaper alechem, on this day He will atone for you, to purify you. That means on this day of Yom Kippur, Hashem from above, God from above, brings a power of purification to the people of Israel to remove our sins. Then it says, Mikol chatotechem lifnei Hashem titziharu. From all your sins, you have to purify yourselves in front of Hashem. This is the essence of the teshuvah, which has to be done from below. Another Yom Kippur is, in a way, a double form of atonement. One comes from above, and one comes from below. Itaruta de la Eila de la Tata is the Aramaic translation. And the last Mishnah in the tractate that deals with Yom Kippur brings the statement of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, Sheichem Yisrael, Nifnei mi, atem metare mita, tare eschem, Avichen shbashamayim, metare eschem, B'neema, mikveh Yisrael Hashem, ma mikveh taisat mehem, kakodesh baruch metais Yisrael. As this is a famous chant, Rabbi Akiva, happy are you, Israel, in front of whom do you purify yourselves? We've got to make the start, it would appear, from the way he puts it. We have to confess the sins, regret them, and make a resolution to change in the future. Thereby we do our part, and Hashem does His part from above. And that's why it says, just like the mikveh brings purity to those who are impure, similarly also HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings purity to the people of Israel. So here, we've got to understand this a bit more deeply. That there are two forms of purification mentioned in the Chumash. One, which is connected closely with the service in the temple, which you have to be pure from contact with the dead, which can only be done by the service connected with the ashes of the red heifer, which are intermingled with waters from a fountain. And then the priest sprinkles them upon the person who is impure, and thereby becomes purified. The person himself impure is passive. The waters are sprinkled on him. And also says, the pasuk which is quoted here is Mikveh Yisrael Hashem, which means the hope of Israel is Hashem. What is the name for the national anthem?
Tikva.
Where does it come from, that name?
Hope.
It comes from the book of Yechezkel.
Oh.
Tikva, hope. It's connected with this verse. There Yechezkel says, the only hope for Israel is Hashem. That's really why we would expect the national anthem of the rejuvenated state of Israel to contain the name of Hashem. After all, both the British and the American national anthem do refer to God. And where they take it from? From Israel. And we in Israel shouldn't mention God's name and hide it. Lo avda tikvatenu. Correct phrase. But the real hope is Hashem. So, literally, this phrase, Mikveh Yisrael Hashem, is connected with the description in the book of Yechezkel of the future redemption when Hashem he said, V'zarakti aleichem ma'im torim utiatem. I'm going to throw upon you purifying waters and you become pure, which you recite constantly, the slichot. So Hashem is the one who pours water on us, of purification. He purifies us from contact with the dead. In other words, he brings about really the revival of the dead. Because it's all interrelated. Cheskel, as you know, I suppose all of you have read the vision of the valley of dry bones. Then these dry bones come back to life. So it's a reference to Tchiyat HaMitim. But it's certainly also a reference, not just the resurrection of the dead physically, but the rejuvenation of the Jewish people in their own homeland. When many of the nations of the world thought the Jewish people has disappeared, or is going to disappear, they did their best to cause us to disappear, and despite the Holocaust, we have not disappeared. We re-established ourselves. It doesn't come from ourselves, it comes from the power of Hashem. He is fulfilling at least the metaphorical interpretation of the vision of Yechezkel. Question, can these dry bones live? We say yes, they can live. How do they live? By returning to Torah, return to the mitzvot, listening to Hashem, and trying to become saintly and pure. But Rabbi Akiva, in the Mishnah, he adds to the allegory. He says the word mikveh here can be translated as the hope. It can also be translated as the gathering together of waters. You might say, what's the connection between these two concepts? I mean, the word mikveh mayim is referred to the Chumash also when waters are gathered together. And then we have the word kaved ad Hashem, we say it now in these months, hope unto Hashem, hope. And then we have the word kav, which means a line. So the concept here is that gathering things together is the basic concept. It can be waters, it can be gathering the whole people of Israel together to direct themselves to a unity. Unity with one another and unity with Hashem. So that's the concept of our hope. Hope is also when you don't allow yourself to become in a situation of despair, but especially you look forward to a line that will lead you to reconnect with Israel, to reconnect with Hashem. So you said, so Rabbi Akiva says further, a mikveh, we know, brings purification. What is the difference between the sprinkling of water purification upon the passive Kohen, or people who become impure in other ways and they have to dive into the mikveh? What's the difference?
The amount of water that's used.
Yes, what else? Difference is that you've got to dive in. You can't be passive. It's not going to happen unless you dive into the mikveh, and also in the mikveh you've got to immerse yourself entirely. If you do that, then that will bring you purification. So here, Rav Dessler, if you follow inside, describes this a bit more deeply. The concept of the mikveh is Geder HaMikvehu, to remove oneself entirely from the world of falsehood. Yitzia me'olam hazeh legamri, we go out entirely from this world. Afilu asarot, even the hairs must be inside the water. And waters here refer to, symbolically, to the waters of Torah. Knisa legamri el Torah. Not only that, but you've got to cling to the Torah. Just like your whole body has got to cling to the waters. There is no division, even the smallest measurement between you and between the Torah, and also between you and the waters. For the waters, the Torah, is in many places that you who are thirsty come and drink the waters of Torah. So the Torah has to be spiritual, without any thoughts or material benefits. Now there's a certain din, you go to mikvah, that if waters have been put into vessels, even waters, rainwater, or water also from a fountain, and then you go and put them into vessels, that means you've already, as it were, connected it with some human purpose. You want to use it for washing, you want to use it for drinking. It's called Maim She'uvim, which is, he says, some waters have already been put into a vessel which is used for materialistic benefit, for cleansing, cleaning, or for purposes of drink. Then this kali, this vessel, disqualifies the water. Even if originally the mikvah was intended for purification, but you pour in a bit in the mikvah of Maim She'uvim, then they all become disqualified. That means, let's say the mikveh hasn't got the full measure of 40 saw of water. It's got one saw missing. So you go and take some tap water, or water which has been put aside to cleanse the garments. It's already got a stamp of human materialistic purposes on it, and therefore the whole of the mikveh is no longer valid. That means if it's already got the full measure, then the extra water you put in doesn't matter. And nearly all the mikvahot we go into, they just have close connection with an original mikvah. You don't always see it, but that original mikvah has to have 40 measures, quite a large volume of water, which is just rainwater. That's the usual mikvah you have today. And then that mikvah of 40 saw of rainwater is connected with other waters. Then they'd also become kosher. Then it says also, Dessler hamikvah zochalen. If that's a water that comes from rain, and then it flows. I mean, it flows in, flows out. It's like this. Here there's a difference between the two types of mikvahot. The mikvahot that come from rainwater, and the mikvahot that come from fountains. So fountains is different. There's מי מעיין שתמיד מתחדשים ובהם לא שייך פסול שזוך עליהם. Water that comes from a fountain that constantly produces water, so the fact that it's constantly producing, it does not become tasur. It remains its additional purification power. But if it's waters that we absorbed from the rain, and water is stationary, if they flow out, it's others flow in, it's not kosher of mikveh. In other words, there's an invalidation of the purification if the waters are connected with anything which could receive impurity. The possibility of impurity affects also the purification power. So this also applies to learning Torah. You won't learn Torah on the highest level. You've got to, that's the concept of throwing yourself into the environment of Torah. That's why it's not so simple for a person to grow in Torah if he's got to go to business, he's got all sorts of other occupations, and let's say he learns a couple of hours Torah. It's not the same as a person who's able to immerse himself in it. Unless he can, as it were, cut off everything, and then immerse himself in the learning in a thorough manner without interruption, then he can reach the highest level. So he said, from this angle, we can understand that, as it says in the Chumash, a few parshas ago, "Vatem adveikim b'Hashem Elokechem, chayim kolchem hayom." Those of you who cling unto Hashem, you are totally alive today. A person is totally alive, he clings to Hashem. How can we cling to Hashem? We cling to His Torah. The Torah is not just the will, but also the wisdom of Hashem. And we, by immersing our minds and hearts in it, we gain purification. So this is the concept, mikveh Yisroel Hashem. Yisroel cling to Him entirely, so that in their heart they recognize there's no power apart from Him. As it said in Yom Kippur, the Yetzer Hara has no rulership. Satan has the gematria in Miracle Kabbalah 254. So it's one short. There's one, two, three, no, so 364. So it's one short of the lunar year. It's 365.
That's right.
The Satan is, the Satan has no power. In Yom Kippur. Why? Because the Jewish people, we take on the appearance and also the habits of the angels, who also have no evil inclination. So in Yom Kippur we recognize as a nation, and some say the essence of the atonement of Yom Kippur is even without teshuvah, without penitence. Okay, that's what it says. The first part of the verse says, "Yechaper lechem, kevayom hazeh yechaper lechem." This day has great power. More halachically, if we go like the Rambam, we say it only atones for the lightest of sins by itself. You've also got to do tshuva, which is the second part of the verse. But the Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, no, I suppose it means like this. Because also it says, especially when they have also the two goats, it says explicitly that the goat carries the sins, all the sins of the people of Israel. And Yom Kippur has a similar power. So perhaps what it means is, there's always a remnant that keep this service of the Beit HaMikdash. And even there's no Beit HaMikdash, there's a remnant that reenacts it, there's a remnant of Am Yisrael. It says in the Chumash, "In Yisem et nafsho teichem." The nefesh here referred to is the animalistic soul of the human being. And in Yom Kippur, we afflict it, we make it poor. We, as it were, live without it. We don't eat, we don't have marital relations, and you've got to mustn't wear shoes because the earth we're standing on that day is Admat Kodesh, to become holy. And with the Yom Kippur, everything becomes holy. And even though, let's say, the vast majority of Jews don't keep it, let's say, it can happen, but there's always a minimum number of Jews who still keep on with it. So that the core of the Yom Kippur service still exists in some fashion. And today, in the synagogues, the whole service is reenacted in the prayers. So therefore the Yetzer Hara has no power. And therefore the dveikut to Hashem Yitbarach is more complete. And it's as though, as the people of Israel, we're immersing ourselves in Hashem. What do we know of Hashem? The Torah. Torah is the teaching. That's the teaching of Hashem, which shows what to do. But not only that, it connects us with Him. We're going to recognize that we have within us the Tselem Elokim, the image of Hashem, and that the soul is really a window to Hashem. And therefore, on Yom Kippur, we do Tevilah, we immerse in the waters of purification, which in this instance is the directives and the wisdom of Hashem. So this is the hope of the people of Israel. And as a result, we get a renewal. It's also referred to, sages, Amnivra. We become a recreated people. It means after having had a period of recreation in the summer, when nearly all of us have recreation, then we progress to have recreation. It comes to Elul, the Shoshana, then Yom Kippur, we become a recreated people. So this is the depth of this Ashreichem Yisrael, happy you Am Yisrael. You could even go a stage further. Why is it Rabbi Akiva? Well, you know, Rabbi Akiva has the most unique life in many ways. One of his aspects was also his involvement in the political situation of the people of Israel at that time. He was opposed very much to the Roman control, not so much the territorial control, but the religious control. We call it the religious discrimination and persecution. And then also he became a victim when he was massacred. They forbade teaching Torah in public, but he took no notice. He taught Torah in public. Then also, he believed that Bar Kokhba was a potential Mashiach. He supported him. Even some say that the real name Bar Kokhba was Bar Koziba. See, it appears in some sources. So why is it called Bar Kokhba? Because of the Pasuk, Mashiach, Achach Miyakov, that Hashem will direct a star to bring about the coming of the Mashiach. Kokhba means a star. So this, you see, so his idea was Bar Kokhba had this potential. Maybe it was a potential Mashiach, but it turned out it became too nationalistic, it went wrong. And in the end it was Bar Koziba, because the Kazav means fail, a failure, a false one. It was a false Mashiach. And maybe he's saying here also, the Pasuk says, Mikveh Yisrael Hashem, the hope of Am Yisrael is a connection with Hashem. And that can bring about the redemption. Because they refer to the redemption of Am Yisrael. They say this is the power of the mikvah. Of course, that's to remove impurity. That's why he was the one who brought public Torah lessons all over. And he was not afraid of the Roman persecution. So all this might lie behind this statement. Now, you have any questions on this? Or any comments on any other subject? Yes.
The world is being judged all the time. So why should it especially be judged in these 10 days? Every minute, every second, the world is always being judged.
So you see, this is a question which comes out in the first discussion of the Gemara on the Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, which says, on Rosh Hashanah, all inhabitants of the world are judged by Hashem for the whole year. That even describes that everything is controlled, what's going to happen. It's very detailed, the description, in the Rosh Hashanah prayers, where we say you judge everything, judge mankind, you judge the political situation. Which country is going to have a high level of wealth and which has going to become poor. Not only individuals, also whole groups of mankind. So it's all judged on Rosh Hashanah. But then afterwards the Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi says, Hashem judges every individual in every country, every day and even every moment of the day. So how can you reconcile these Tanoim? So they say like this, that it's Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year. The head contains the nerve centers for every part of the body. Similarly, also Rosh Hashanah is connected, it's the head of the year, so it's connected with the whole year. And there, whatever a person does in the year affects also the central part. If it's something destructive, then the destructive aspect is shown on that day, but it's also registered on Rosh Hashanah. Say if a person sleeps on Rosh Hashanah, then the muzzle of the whole year sleeps. It's like if the brain is affected, there's a tumor in the brain, some sort, then it can affect different parts of the body that are connected with it. So also, there's an interrelationship. In detail, it turns out every day. But the potential, what's going to happen, is in the head. So it's Rosh Hashanah. So, the power of Rosh Hashanah is extended to Yom Kippur, the potential. And the final seal, otherwise it becomes more apparent in the 10 days, and then it's only finally the final judgment, and to fulfill the judgment in Yom Kippur. All this goes back, as we explained, to the first year after Am Yisrael had received the highest revelation. 3 million of ancestors heard Hashem speaking with the 10 sayings, the Decalogue. And then, unfortunately, they committed the sin of the golden calf. So the whole level was broken down to a lower level. And Hashem, in His kindness, He permitted the second luchot. The second luchot means a second chance. So also He gives all of us a second chance. Second chance for mankind, second chance for Am Yisrael, and second chance for each individual of Am Yisrael. So now those of you who can follow some Hebrew, I'm going to give a deeper talk about this, connected issues, at 12 o'clock in the Beis HaMedrash. It's also being on Kol HaLashon. So, I invite all of you to join in. Those who've learned this about this subject.
That's cool.
Yeah.